Hello and welcome to Miniature Adventures. I'm Big Lee and this week I want to talk to you about conquering the lead mountain. Does your pile of shame give you stress? Is there now so much unpainted metal, plastic and resin in your house that its structural integrity is at risk? Do you need supplemental oxygen to reach the summit of Lead Mountain? If the answer is yes to any of those questions, then maybe you need to develop a strategy for reaching the summit. Now, I've made several videos recently about how to motivate yourself to paint and get projects done, but conquering the upper slopes of Lead Mountain is more than just about painting everything you own. So today I'm going to offer a few suggestions on how you can reduce the gravitational pull of all those unpainted miniatures before they collapse under their own mass and form a black hole in the corner of your hobby room. So first I'd say don't beat yourself up. Most tabletop wargamers have an unpainted lead mounting. Of course these days that mounting could also be made up of plastic or resin figures, but the point is every wargamer has a pile of unpainted figures gathering dust somewhere. No matter your period or your genre, we're all guilty to a greater or lesser extent. There's just too much shiny to resist. For many of us, that pile of shame can become a weight that drags us down and holds us back from fully enjoying our hobby, moving on and making progress. So here are 5 simple steps to conquering the metaphorical lead mountain and taking back control of your hobby. First, and this is probably the hardest step, you have to be honest with yourself. You can only tackle a problem by seeing the problem and acknowledging that it is a problem. Now this requires discipline. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, so prepare yourself to make an honest assessment. Ask, what can I realistically hope to paint? The answer will of course depend on your painting speed, your motivation and your resources. You'll also need to give serious thought to what periods and collections you're going to play. So maybe you need to look around at your club or your friends' collections and either decide to collaborate on a big project or make a decision not to duplicate a period that is already readily available for you to play with. Whatever you do, ask yourself, how much does this period excite me? What are you aiming for here is a priority list whereby you rank your collections of unpainted figures from those that excite you the most to those that barely register. So now that you've done a mental inventory of your collection and identified the items that excite you the least, it's time to sell some stuff. Now I'm focusing here on unpainted miniatures, not your painted collections. I'm a bit ambivalent, it has to be said, about selling stuff you've painted, and that is a topic for an entirely different video. But aside from figure ranges that have some historical or emotional significance, I'm quite relaxed about selling on or even giving away stuff that will never get painted. Of course you can use eBay or perhaps even Vinted, I suppose, to auction collections off, but never underestimate the power of the humble bring and buy. There are other options of course, so selling to a club or to a friend or even just donating stuff to the same is an option that will quickly reduce the volume of your lead mounting. If you're going to sell, I'd suggest not trying to make a profit or even breaking even. The whole point of this exercise is to recoup some of the cost so that you can reinvest in your hobby, but the main aim is to reduce the pile of shame, not necessarily make a financial gain. I mean, while you're getting rid of that stuff, somebody else is getting a bargain, so both people are happy. Okay, so one way or another, you've now trimmed down your pile of unpainted miniatures. Hopefully, you've been left with a manageable collection of the most exciting and unique projects. But how do you stop the lead mountain from growing again? Now that your pile is hopefully a lot smaller, it's time to have a good tidy up. Getting your unpainted miniatures organised, indeed having an organised workspace in general, is vital if you're going to make progress painting those miniatures. You know, you've analysed your collections and disposed of those you didn't want anymore, but do you really know what is in the collections that you've kept? So understanding what is in those boxes is a good first step to getting your enthusiasm for painting them back. You may well find that you have duplicate items that you don't need anymore, so you've got a second opportunity there to weed out unneeded figures and reduce your pile a little bit more. But looking through the collection may well reignite the excitement that made you buy them in the first place. That is a good place to start if you want to get them painted. So now you know exactly what you have to paint, and hopefully you're excited all over again to work on your miniatures. So now you need a plan to paint them. Now, I've recently talked about setting yourself realistic targets for painting and finding strategies for keeping your enthusiasm going, breaking the job down into manageable chunks and deciding which order you're going to work on miniatures. I like to keep the most challenging or exciting items towards the end of a project as a reward for slogging my way through the less exciting units. So keeping back your favourite unit of hussars, for instance, until you've worked your way through the infantry is a technique that works for many painters. Now, as recently discussed, use the power of collective painting to keep the motivation going, and remember that every model painted is one step towards progress. Now, right back at the beginning of this topic, I discussed the need for discipline, and you're going to need it again, because the last step is going to be a tough one for many of you. Now, while you're reducing your lead mounting, you also need to keep your hands off the credit card. There's little point in reducing your backlog by selling or giving away a load of miniatures only to replace them with another project that isn't going to get painted anytime soon. Of course, you may need to buy one or two items to fill a gap in a collection you finally decided to get started on. But whatever you do, don't buy more than you have just disposed of. My rule of thumb is I don't buy projects that I'm not planning on starting immediately. If a new collection isn't instantly placed at the top of your to-do list, then it should wait until you've made an effort to tick some of the other items off that to-do list. Undoubtedly, it's going to be hard, especially if, like me, you enjoy visiting trade shows. But if you're serious about reducing your pile of shame, then you must resist the shiny. For the love of sable, don't impulse buy, and never ever buy a collection as an investment. So reducing your lead mounting or pile of shame is not only good for your painting productivity, it's also good for your mental health. All that unpainted stuff teetering on the edge of collapse in your game room is holding you back. Unless of course you have a lifelong desire to be squashed by a tsunami of miniatures, then reducing the backlog of projects is the only way forward. So have you got a mountain of miniatures holding you back? Have you ever tried to reduce your unpainted collections? And if you have, was it successful, or did your willpower crack and your pile just got bigger? As always, I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. So moving on, we're going to have a workbench update. And last week I finished the latest part of my Russian army for the retreat from Moscow. Aside from the regular Russian army, the Tsar was able to call upon a huge body of volunteers to provide reserves, garrisons, even fight alongside regular infantry. The Opportuni militia numbered around 420,000 men and were a vital part of Russia's defence. And during the French retreat, the Opportuni were increasingly used to pursue the French and in frontline roles alongside regular units which were by this time tired and depleted. Now, the models for these two units are by front rank and represent some of the better armed Jaeger Opportuni equipped with a rudimentary uniform and a musket. There are also some mounted units armed with lances and other foot units armed only with pikes and an axe. These would often follow up the Jaeger type units, and some sources refer to these troops as foot Cossacks. Although initially used only for reserve roles, they were increasingly used to fill gaps in the lines for regular troops. Both these units have a kaftan style jacket and trousers and a backpack with black belts, which wouldn't be out of place in a regular Jaeger unit. The Moscow Opportuni are dressed in brown with a tall fur hat, while the St. Petersburg militia are in green with a soft cap similar to the infantry forage cap. In both cases they display a brass cross symbol on their headgear, a symbol of their loyalty to the Tsar. Now, I've already bought more Opportuni, although I think my next lot will be the pike armed variety plus some cavalry. Yet again, I'm expanding the army before I finish painting the first batch. However, as these are a current project that I'm working on, they will bypass my own lead mounting and land directly on my desk. So we've got time for a book review, and Adam Zamoyski's 1812 Napoleon's Fatal March in Moscow is a masterfully written narrative. And is one of history's most infamous military campaigns. For the historical wargamer, this book often offers a wealth of strategic insights, logistical considerations and battlefield details that can greatly enhance your understanding and recreation of this most notable period of the Napoleonic Wars on the battlefield table. Now, Zamoyski's account is deeply researched and richly detailed, drawing on first-hand sources from French, Russian and other European perspectives. Unlike many military histories that focus solely on high-level strategy and grand manoeuvre, this book vividly portrays the experiences of individual soldiers, officers and civilians. This human element is particularly valuable for wargamers looking to add narrative depth to their games, bringing a sense of realism to the conflicts they simulate. Now, for wargamers who enjoy refighting the battles of the 1812 campaign, this book provides crucial insights into the operational challenges faced by both Napoleon and his adversaries. Zamoyski details the difficulties of supply lines, the impact of terrain and weather, and the role of logistics in shaping the campaign's outcomes. These factors are often underrepresented in tabletop wargaming rules, but incorporating elements such as attrition, fatigue and supply constraints can make for a more authentic and challenging experience. Napoleon's strategic decisions, such as his initial rapid advance, the lack of decisive engagements and his failure to anticipate Russian tactics, are dissected in a way that allows wargamers to consider alternative approaches for those interested in campaign-style wargames or grand strategy games. Zamoyski's analysis helps inform house rules or scenario design that better reflect historical reality. Now, while this book does not focus exclusively on individual battles, it does cover key engagements such as the Battle of Borodino in considerable detail. The description of force compositions, troop movements and the sheer brutality of the fighting are useful for scenario building. Wargamers can take inspiration from Zamoyski's descriptions to set up accurate battlefields, adjust orders of battle and simulate the ferocity of Napoleonic warfare. And one of the things I was struck by when I read this was that the book provides ample material for small-scale skirmish type wargames, particularly those focusing on the rearguard actions, partisan warfare and the desperate retreat of the French army. The campaign's later stages, where stragglers, Cossacks and guerrilla forces play a significant role, offer rich possibilities for unconventional wargaming scenarios beyond traditional line battles. Adam Zamoyski's 1812 Napoleon's Fatal March on Moscow is an essential read, I think, for historical wargamers interested in the Napoleonic Wars. Its blend of grand strategy, tactical detail and human drama make it an invaluable resource for those looking to deepen their understanding of the conflict. Whether for scenario creation, campaign gaming or miniature painting, this book provides a rich and detailed foundation for bringing the 1812 campaign to life on your tabletop. So that's it for this week. As always, please join the conversation in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe and share. So until next week, stay safe, keep gaming and of course, keep rolling high.